Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 network in the United States. And also Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe. So thank you, Big C, for that. Today is a beautiful January the 9th, 2017 National Championship Monday. I want to also say thank you to all of our listeners in Latin America, so bienvenidos to you, as well as across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Thank you so much for Charlton and Big C Sports. And I'm going to say thank you, Canada, but I don't want to see it because I don't want to get you mad at me, not on a Monday, Big C. But there's no one I love more than the land of the free and the home of the brave. That's the United States of America. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south? I know you're in Tampa this evening, Big C.
Charlton, I had to come down here to get a little seafood.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just to make life a little better, Charlton. But, you know, so many crazy people down here.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, you know. But, you know, this is what fan fair is all about, Charlton. I know you guys out there on the West Coast, you're getting a little bit of rain and moisture and everything, which is sorely needed. But
oh, yeah.
down here, you know, it was sunny and beautiful today. And expecting a great game in a packed stadium, Charlton, a national championship game for the ages.
Well, I tell you what, Big C, it's always great this time of the year for anyone that denies that sports can galvanize people and bring people together. All they have to do is pay attention to what's going on in the national championship game. Even NBC News, NBC Today, opened down in Tampa, which is a gorgeous city, by the way, and to see the national championship and how everybody comes together for sport venues. We had some great games over the weekend with the NFL kicking off with the preseason, not preseason, but the playoff games, the wild card games, Big C. But there's nothing greater for a fan than the national championship game because it always brings so much excitement. I want to say this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, did you take the Escalade down to Tampa, or did you actually get on a plane, Big C?
Well, Charlton had to fly down here. I couldn't trust my baby being down there and all that sunshine and everybody putting the handprints all on it and everything, and it gonna come out and disrupt the natural camouflage that I have on there. So I took a plane and took a little Uber ride, you know, get over here because, you know, let somebody else do the driving. You know, I couldn't have a six-pack in there, but, you know, I got there and, you know, there was plenty of liquid flowing in the ground.
Well, I understand that, Big C. And, you know, there's something about the Escalade is so classy, but you're the only guy that I've ever heard say he doesn't want to get his Escalade in the sunshine, Big C. You really are a good old boy down south. I appreciate that very much, Big C. And as we all look forward to this momentous ending to the national championship and the college football season that we love so much, I also want to take the time to pay homage to another brand of football because there's another championship game where it was already crowned. So congratulations to James Madison University, and they won the FCS national championship. And what a great program they built there. They beat Youngstown State out of Ohio 28-14. Big C, I know we put so much attention on Division I, but there's a lot of good football being played in Division II all over the country. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about what's formerly known as 1AA football, and you think about the wealth of talent that is around in the NFL that has come out of that division of football, Charlton, over the decades.
Yeah.
And when you look at that championship games, Charlton, that's what it's all about. This is what the model of the NCAA had set the Division I championship game on. When 1AA started playing championship games, Charlton, they started with just 4 teams.
Yeah.
And then that expansion went along and they're up to 16 teams now, Charlton. But they got it right, okay? They have a designated championship site every year that the game is going to be played in. But it's the playoffs, Charlton, and that's what it's about. They don't limit it to just a couple schools, Charlton. They bring in schools from all over the country. But they play in one of the team's home stadiums, which we talked about that in all these bowl games.
Yeah.
You got an unnatural site, and so you're sitting there, and the stadium's 3/4 empty, and you're saying, well, you know, these players are excited about playing. Nobody wants to play in front of a practice crowd, Charlton.
Yeah.
And that's what you have in most of these bowl games, Charlton, because there's so many. But when you get a championship, and Youngstown, you know, even though they came in second, Charlton, you got to look at the people Youngstown put in place there. You know, you think about Bo Pelini, former head coach of Nebraska.
Yeah.
To have gone to Youngstown State, Charlton, and turned that program around, and in his second year there, Charlton, have him in the national championship game at that level.
Yeah.
Also, the president of Youngstown State is the former head coach of Youngstown State who won 3 national championships there, but he also went to the biggest school in that state, Ohio State won a national championship, and that's Jim Tressel, Charlton.
Oh, yeah.
He's the president of Youngstown State. So when you think of the tandem that they have there as far as the leader of the university, the leader of the football program, and the knowledge that they possess as a tandem there at that university and what they've done, that's just a great feat. But congratulations, James Madison, for going out winning the championship. This is a championship that, when you think about it, North Dakota State had won it for the previous 5 seasons. That's the school where Carson went to.
Oh, yeah, the Bison, I think. They're the Bison, I believe.
North Dakota State. So
yeah.
They were knocked off this year, Charlton. But, you know, you take your hats off to James Madison, who did a wonderful job in winning the Bowl Subdivision National Championship.
Yeah, and also, even on another note, as we all get hyped, Big C, for watching the national championship game, there's also some realism that comes into the world of college football. And if you think about the University of California, Berkeley, we talk about Jared Goff being the #1 pick in the NFL. Well, you look at his coach at Cal, Sonny Dykes. He was fired by the University of California, Berkeley, after going 19 wins and 30 losses in 4 seasons, Big C. Now, he actually had a better record than Goff. That Goff was the #1 pick in the NFL, if you look at that for irony. But he was fired on a Sunday, and he apologized to his players. He believes that they're going to have great careers. But here's a guy that still graduated a number of his kids. But if you don't win, Big C, then they're going to let you go unless you're a quarterback and you go 14 and 26. But, you know, hopefully he'll land on his feet. Had a great mind for offense, but defensively, they never got the chance to really get things figured out. But let me ask you the irony here, Big C. Here's Goff, who was drafted out of Cal and considered the best prospect for the NFL, and his coach that helped him get there, Big C, he's fired for having a better record as a coach. How does that make any sense, Big C?
Well, what Charlton, it's interesting that you get a coach who has a player, and everybody says he's the best prospect in the entire country as far as developing and helping an NFL team to move forward in their organization, potentially become a world champion.
Yeah.
But that coach who got that player to that point can no longer coach at the previous university. It's what you said. It's all about wins, Charlton. Well, what's ironic about it? There was a coach in that general area that was fired last week, you know, if I did it correctly, and, you know, he only worked maybe 30 miles away from Berkeley.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about it, it was a stone for a guy named Kelly.
Yeah, Chip Kelly.
You know, this would make a very inexpensive move. The moving vans, they really wouldn't even have to lock up the doors to drive across, you know, the bay to the other city.
Yeah.
And so I kind of look at that move, Charlton, with the firing of Sonny Dykes. Chip Kelly being available, former Pac-12 coach, who put a lot of excitement up there in Corvallis.
Yeah.
With Eugene, and, you know, putting him there in the Bay, we could make Cal Berkeley relevant again.
Yeah.
You know, just like, you know, the former coach that they had, who is now the head coach of Fresno State, Jeff Tedford.
Yeah.
When he went into Cal, he made Cal relevant because he was an offensive mind, Charlton. He believed in running a team through the quarterbacking system. And you think about the quarterbacks that Jeff Tedford had drafted while he was in Cal. Former first-round draft picks like Kyle Bowler, who was drafted by the Ravens, Aaron Rodgers, who we all know his lineage in being at Green Bay. So he ran a wealth of players. Marshawn Lynch, former running back of the Seattle Seahawks, Super Bowl champion. So Jeff Tedford built a wealth of talent there at Cal, had some winning records, and we had 2 losing seasons in a row.
Yeah.
They let him go, but they've had no success since then, Charlton. But when you think about the firing of Chip Kelly last week in San Francisco, the firing of Sonny Dykes today at Cal, what more of a natural coincidence could you have? Chip Kelly's not going far away. That college job opened up as soon as he got fired from the NFL. He will be in Cal Berkeley within the week, Joe.
Well, Big C, that's a very good choice if they do that. He's also a guy that likes the fast team, and they have AstroTurf at Cal Berkeley. You know, one more thing about Cal Berkeley was actually ranked #1 under Tedford for about 13 minutes before they lost to Oregon State in a game at home. They were ranked number 1 in the country for about 1 minute. And since that time, Big C, the Cal program, they challenged USC a number of times, but they've gone downhill since then. Hopefully, if Kelly takes that job, and he probably already has, that can really turn around the California Golden Bears. And speaking of turning things around, this segment is sponsored by your California Lottery. What can a buck do for you? I believe the Mega Millions over $100 million again, Big C. So you'll probably get out of the Escalade and go buy a ticket. It's amazing how much people come around when it hits $100 million. But if you think about $100 million that can make people get out of their houses and go buy a lotto ticket, Big C, that would be like chump change to a lot of these NBA athletes and also Major League Baseball players. How well do they have it in the world of sports, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charles, when you look at the collective bargaining agreements that were just signed by the NBA and Major League Baseball in the past couple of months, Charles, these players are going to come very, very well. It wasn't like they were poor before, but you think about the average salary in the NBA going up $4 million.
Yeah.
You know, so an also-ran player, Charlton, will make $4 million. So a guy sitting down on the bench, number 12.
Yeah.
But you'll see a lot of these mid-superstars, Charlton, getting $20 to $30 million a year contracts. We're not talking about the elite players in the league.
Yeah.
We're talking about mid-superstars. We'll get that because the money garnishes that.
Yeah.
And just the collective bargaining agreement. But, you know, I look at sports overall, Charlton, and I feel for the fans. I don't feel for the players. I feel for the fans.
Yeah.
Because I remember as a kid, when, you know, you could go to a baseball game in the summer, Charlton, and it would cost you $1.50 to get into the bleachers, okay?
Yeah.
$1.50. I mean, even with the time difference and the value of the dollar is different. But you think about that, for 6 quarters, Charlton,
yeah,
you can get into a game for a kid. And not only that, you can get an autograph from a player. A player would stop going through the tunnels because we would line the tunnels as they went in and out, Charlton, and along the rail, because you could come down to the rail during pregame, and they would sign autographs. You think about what you got as a child back in those days, Charlton, that you really got a chance to enjoy your youth. Now a player will not sign for a kid because he feels that the kid is going to go out and sell his autograph. The kid's going to make money off of it.
Yeah.
So they won't do that. So the genuinism of a professional athlete, Charlton, is no longer there. It's all about me. They feel that they don't make enough money as a player, making multi-million-dollar contracts, that they're worried about some kid possibly going out and getting $25, $50, maybe $100 for an autograph, selling at some autograph show or even to some autograph seeker.
Yeah.
And so it's not about the fans anymore. And when you look at the price of tickets, a family of 4 or 5 have to decide only 2 are going to go to a game nowadays. Because it probably costs about $200 to $300 per person at a game, when you put in parking, concessions, souvenirs, just stadium seat, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
It is not inexpensive to take a family or a few people to a game. So players' revenue is rising. The price of going to the product is rising. Right now, professional sports is getting to a point where it's at that fractured state, Charlton.
Yeah.
And, you know, it can collapse at any point because we've talked about college players, Charlton, not getting paid. What's going to happen when we got to decide, does this deal get paid or do we go to a sporting event?
Yep.
And with the new regime coming in, leading the United States in the next 2 years, these are the decisions that people definitely going to have to make.
Well, Big C, I agree with that very much so. And still no talk about any money given to athletes, and everybody's so happy about seeing this game. And I agree with you. I'm very happy to see the sports, but I still would like to see at least minimum wage paid to the players who are making, you know, almost $1 billion combined with all these bowl games set up, Big C. And talking about what it costs to go to a game, I recall back in the day in San Francisco, I actually went with some friends and we would sneak into Candlestick Park just to watch the 49ers play. And at that time, back in the day, I think Gene Washington was the best player for the 49ers, so there would be only about 40,000 people at Candlestick anyway. But we could sneak into a game, and you can't sneak into anything now because there's too much security. And Big C, as we look at this game tonight, this tremendous matchup with the University of Clemson and the University of Alabama, Nick Saban, love him or hate him, if you look at St. Nick, he can tie former Crimson Tide coach Paul Bear Bryant for 6 national championships. But what does that mean, Big C? When Paul Bear Bryant, he did it during segregation. He didn't have to go against the guys that you see in the SEC now or even in the ACC. So I think Saban's already a better coach because he had much more talented athletes to play against. And that's why after they played USC and lost that game, he said, I got to get me some of those. And he met the black athlete, which has taken the sport and made it $1 billion industry. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you look at what Saban has done versus what Bear Bryant did, Charlton, it's a totally different area. You know, you played 10 games in college football back at the end of what Bear Bryant, you know, when he got going, winning championships, and he ended up it was only 11. You didn't have a 12 and 13 game season, Charlton. You didn't have a conference playoff. You didn't have this opportunity to have a playoff system in college football.
Yeah.
So Bear Bryant had it easy. I mean, he will always be looked at as one of the greatest coaches of all time. He'll always be a legend, but the times were different. He didn't have to compete against the elitist athlete out there, Charlton. He got the best athlete of his genre down at Alabama during the time, but he didn't go against elite athletes in every game that he played. He didn't travel across the country, Charlton, and play these non-conference games against dominant schools.
Yeah.
He didn't have the level of competition even in the SEC that they have now, Charlton, when you look at the expansion of the conference. So, you know, his time was much easier, a different time in college athletics.
Yeah.
Could any team that Bear Bryant coach compete against Alabama today? No. But they would get blown off the field in the first quarter, Charlton. They would call it what do they call it in
they throw in the towel? Is that what they do?
It would be the mercy rule.
The mercy rule, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, that's the difference in the era. So, when you think about what Nick Saban has done on the college level,
yeah.
Even when he was started as a head coach at Michigan State, Charlton, he had some good players there. You know, you think about the Tony Mandarins, the Carlos Snow, the linebackers. He had some players there, Charlton. And so, but as he escalated his ability to coach, he went to
Wait, did you say he drops an Escalade too, Big C? Is that what did you sneak that in, that Saban also drops Escalade, Big C?
Oh, no, he's not going to swoop down
Okay.
He's a Mercedes-Benz.
Oh, okay, I understand.
He wish America would drive forward.
Oh, okay, sounds good. That's funny.
So when you look at what he's done, you know, his coaching career didn't start off that great, you know, because he started as a defensive coordinator under Bill Belichick, you know, when he was at the Cleveland Browns. But when he got the job at Michigan State,
yeah.
He established himself as a college coach. He went to LSU, did marvelous things at LSU, but he thought he could tiptoe back into the NFL. He's had 2 stints in the NFL. That's why he has no interest of going back to the NFL. Talking. Everybody keeps talking about he's going to go to an NFL program. He's not. He was a loser when he was with the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
He was a loser when he was with the Miami Dolphins, okay? He doesn't have complete control in the NFL like he has in Alabama. If he's in Alabama and he's walking along in the practice field in the grasshopper land, he can tell somebody to get the grasshopper off the field. Okay?
Yeah, that's funny.
But he's not going to get that up.
Yep.
So going to the NFL where you have to deal with grown men who make millions of dollars versus having free labor at Alabama, they don't make a dime. He's the only one making millions.
Yeah.
He's not leaving that situation, Charlton. You know, leading to tonight's game, the biggest challenge, Charlton, offensively, is for Alabama. It's not Clemson, but Alabama. You got a whole new system. And they can say that Tarkisian is familiar with the leverage because they've been there all year. But he's been sitting up in the box, Charlton.
Yeah.
He's been in the press box. He was blaming Kiffin on the sideline.
Yeah.
Now, if things go south in a hurry in this game, Alabama, who do you blame?
Oh, yeah.
Do you blame Nick Saban or do you blame Tarkisian? You know, it's easy that it was rolled out on Tarkisian, but Nick Saban made the move. You guys are going to be a hero or a goat tonight, Charlton. That's how it's going to go down. If he wins this championship, then he will be the hero.
Well,
if he doesn't win it, then he's going to be the GOAT because he's going to constantly question why did you make the move when you made the move against the offensive coordinator. Everybody thinks he's a genius.
Yeah.
He's really kicking at this time. But if it doesn't go well tonight for Alabama, he will be questioned thoroughly.
He'll be hanging out with with Beckham down there in South Florida as well, Big C. But if he wins tonight, Alabama, with all of their heritage and all of their success, they would become the first team that goes 15-0 in college football history. And when you think about that, they have so much success down there, and it would be also the first time that the title rematch in sports history. Though, if you think about what he's done, He has the number one recruiting class again, Big C. You know, people talk about they have these great players that are going to be first-round NFL draft picks. He has a running back out of Antioch, California, which is just east of Oakland, and he's considered the number one recruit in the country, and he's going to Alabama. And this kid is the number 4 all-time leading rusher in the state of California. Now, he gets not only the top player out of California when USC is back. You know, Stanford's right there in their own backyard. You talk about Oregon and Washington, the Huskies. Normally, these players would stay on the West Coast. Nick Saban could come into California in the Bay Area of all places where they have Stanford and Cal, and not that far from USC, UCLA, and grab the number one player, Big C. And if you think about it, if they win tonight, Alabama will have won 5 national championships in 8 years. Now, when you think about that, we only have 85 scholarships. That's going back to the 1936 season. That type of success, Big C, there's no reason that he would ever go back to the NFL except for to get his ego busted, Big C. And I don't think people are in the market for doing that. Just speaking of that, this segment is sponsored by United Labor, guaranteed $100,000 life insurance with no medical questions. We are also endorsed by the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Society. We work with all of the unions under the AFL-CIO. Tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports on iHeartRadio network. We're looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers because we simply want to put people back to work. So, Big C, I want to ask you a question. I know you're a defensive guy, and you know a lot of the defensive guys, they cheat. You guys hold a lot, and oftentimes the offensive linemen get called for it. That's why they started wearing their jerseys that tuck inside of their shoulder pads so guys like you can't grab them. When you look at Jonathan Allen, big guy for the Alabama Crimson Tide, number 93. He's projected as an early round NFL pick. You're down there in the SEC. What makes him a number one pick, Big C?
Charlton, you know, he's a very solid defensive lineman. It's hard to find weakness. Well, there may be one weakness, and he's going to have to develop more on his pass rush.
Yeah.
But he's a run stopper, Charlton. He can clog up the middle of the line. He takes 2 players to block him.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's one of those consistent players that you're going to get in every play from him. You know, he can recover fumbles. He has scored touchdowns this year. Charlton even has an interception.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's the complete package. He's very athletic. You know, he has a very sleek body for a man his size. You know, he reminds a lot of people physically of Ndamukong Suh.
Oh, yeah.
All-American.
Yeah.
You know, number 1 draft pick in the Detroit Lions some years ago now with the Miami Dolphins. Physically, he reminds you much of him. But, you know, the difference is his temperament and personality. He's not a player that's going to go off and cost you, Charlton.
Yeah.
He's very cerebral, being a defensive lineman. But, you know, he's played in a winning program, Charlton, ever since he's been at Alabama. That's the key. He could have went into the NFL draft last year.
Yeah.
He chose to come back and potentially win another championship, but also get his degree, Charlton. So that shows the dedication of so many athletes who come back to get the degree. Don't worry about bowl games or things like that. But get that piece of paper that you'll have something to go along in life with.
Yeah.
And so you got to be very proud of so many of these Alabama players who come back and get that degree, Charlton,
Yeah.
and continue to play college football.
But when you think about it, if the Tide win tonight, Big C, and everyone talking about the great Paul Bear Bryant, if Alabama wins tonight, their winning streak would go to 27 victories in a row. That's 3rd longest in the program's Southeastern Conference history. And his record, an amazing 13-1 in championship games. 13-1, that's a whole season playing the best or the second best team in the country every year. And he's 13-1, Big C, against arguably the first or second best team in the country. I don't think you can top that on any level of football, Big C. And if you think about it, if they win tonight, they'll go wire to wire, number 1 in the Amway coaches poll. Now, you're down there in that part of the country. What is it about? It's not just Alabama. I know the SEC was not as dominant top to bottom this year, but what is it about that region of the country where they get better programs than Florida? It used to be Florida was a hotbed of football. It used to be Southern California. It used to be Texas. It used to be Ohio. How's the state of Alabama becoming the hotbed of college football where everybody wants to go now? Is it just Nick Saban, or is it something about the SEC experience, Big C?
Well, Charlton, it's about the winning, but when you look at the level of geographically where they have to choose from, you know, you have Florida, you have South Carolina, you have Georgia, you have the state of Alabama, you have Louisiana right next door, Charlton. You also have Mississippi and Tennessee.
Yeah.
You get the wealth of talent out of that group that really doesn't have to travel far. And you think about a lot of these southern kids, they have strong family roots, Jonathan, and they're not looking to go a long way from home. It's not like other parts of the country. You talked about the kid out there in the Bay Area, the running back, who's going to be going to Alabama.
Najee Harris out of Antioch, California.
You got to look at who Alabama had in recruiting. We had two former coaches from USC and the University of Washington, Steve Sarkisian and Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
They had recruiting ties in that area, Jonathan, so it was very easy for them to move out westward and bring players into Alabama. You think about Jalen Hurd. He's out of Texas. The quarterback's Alabama.
Yeah.
So they have the reaches to go out and get players, Jonathan, that are not in the geographical area. But you also got to look at this. They have so many players in the pro ranks, Jonathan, that those become ambassadors for the university as far as recruitment.
Yeah.
Is that those players can reach out to high school kids, Jonathan, without having an official recruiting trip or a trip from the university where they are limited as far as who they see. These are private citizens. And so they're allowed to go out and talk on the university they have. And with these players, these professional players can say, look at me. Look at where I played college ball. This is where you could be playing now like me.
Yeah.
So it's a great recruiting tool for having alumnus from a university who are playing on the professional level when you're looking at a kid. To be able to stop by and say, hey, can you go see the coach? And while you're coaching, introduce yourself to this kid while you're at practice.
Yeah. You know what's interesting?
Championship ring.
You know what's in
it? All the time, Charlton. This is an unwritten rule that's not there by the NCAA, but colleges do it.
Well, you know what's interesting, Big C? Recall earlier in the preseason where Nick Saban and Jim Harbaugh were kind of going at it in the media. Jim Harbaugh took a private plane or a chartered plane down to Florida from Michigan, which I believe is over 2,000 miles to get there. And they were holding kind of camps so people could come and take a look at the Wolverines program. And ironically, Michigan, all of their 3 losses are by combined 5 points. That's how close they are to being in this national championship game tonight. But ironically, Najee Harris out of Antioch, California, he was going to go to either Michigan or Alabama. Now, Michigan held a camp in Antioch back in the summertime, Big C, but it's about 100 degrees. And that's where Harbaugh came to California. He was up here in Sacramento as well. I don't think Nick Saban ever came, but you just brought up the point that Sarkisian and also, you know, the younger guy, Kiffin, they were out here too. So even if you have jumbo jets and chartered planes, sometimes who you know, that can help you get these top players, and the kid ended up signing with the University of Alabama, so that's incredible. But also Alabama's backfield, they're loaded, Big C. They don't even need these young players that probably won't even play for a couple of years. When you look at the Alabama backfield, they have a 1-2 punch, actually 3 players now that are kind of NFL talent. 180 yards rushing against the University of Washington last week, which had a really good defense. That's how good Alabama is. They're kind of the no-name guys. But Bo Scarborough, he's also a can't-miss player out of high school. He's running for 180 yards rushing. And Clemson also has a good one in Wayne Gallman. He'll go back-to-back 1,000 yards this season. So even when you talk about going to get the top recruits from other states, Big C, they have to come sit the bench for a couple of seasons just to even see playing dirt. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, if you look at Alabama's top defensive back, Mika Fitzpatrick, you know, this is a kid that grew up in New Jersey, went to high school in New Jersey. Think about the universities that are around in that general area, Charlton. You got Penn State.
Yeah.
Okay? There's Rutgers out there. There's Maryland. There's so many schools in that general area, Temple, that you know, he leaves the Northeast to go all the way down South Alabama. And so there has to be a reason that Nick gets these players. And we talk about, you can recruit anywhere you want. But when you're going into someone's backyard and you're cherry picking the best talent, you know, there's something about whatever's in the water, the moonshine down in Alabama that's going down there.
Oh, that's what they're bringing out to California. Now I understand, Big Z. In fact, we have so much moonshine, they're finding it in California. A lot of people are liking it. I'm even seeing more commercials about the moonshine burger and the moonshine drink for a cocktail, Big Z. I think you guys have got onto something really good, Big Z. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, everything down in the South is good, Jonathan. Whether it's fried chicken, you know, whether it's oysters, whatever. You know, we got it down here in the South. But just the talent level, when you think about games, and you can go through the list of great players that have come through the SEC and even Alabama, Charlton. And you look at Clemson. Where's Clemson? Clemson's in the South, Charlton.
Yeah.
So, a national championship game is represented back-to-back years by two Southern teams. Okay? What more can you ask for about the dominance in football?
Yeah.
Now, they've allowed teams from other conferences to come in and play. Ohio State won that initial championship.
Yeah.
Cordell Jones is not coming back anytime soon, so Ohio State, Charlton.
Yeah.
So you got to look at they had that big arm that could compete. But when you look at Alabama and Clemson, consecutive years in the national championship game, and we know that the national championship, Charlton, is set up for the Heritage University.
Yeah.
But you're going to get three of these conferences in every year regardless. They're going to be there. But, if Clemson knocks off Alabama tonight, Charlton, what does that do for the status quo? That all of a sudden now the ACC has to be really looked at as a dominant conference, Charlton, in college football. They were represented in the game last year. They're represented again in the game this year, Charlton. But to be able to go to back-to-back championships games, this is like the Buffalo Bills and the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
To be able to get to back-to-back championship games, and you have to be able to win one eventually to be recognized as one of the greatest teams of all time. Now, those two pro teams, Charlton, both won the 4 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Came up empty 4 times, but no one looks at them as great pro teams. Look at the number of pro teams, Charlton, that has never been to a national championship. But even on the college level, the number that will never get to the playoffs or even a chance with a national championship.
Yeah. But Big C, I think when you look at some of these teams, and you're talking about the teams that are playing for national championships and how successful they've been, especially in these southern programs, Big C. I want to just run back a couple of the big programs that have played for national championships over the past several seasons. And you look at Alabama, of course, last year over Clemson, 45-40. Before that, it was Ohio State, I believe, 42-20 over Oregon, Big C, in a game that was close in the fourth quarter. And then you go out to the Rose Bowl, and we bring in Florida State and Auburn, two schools from the South to come out to California. Prior to that, we had Alabama and Notre Dame. It was a 42-14 win over an undefeated Notre Dame team coming into that game, Big C. So that really showed the level of dominance of the SEC. One of the best national championship games I've ever seen was USC and Texas. It was 41-38. Texas came from behind on a 4th and 7 inside the red zone. It was Vince Young who ran around the corner and beat Frosty Rucker to the end zone, and Texas took the lead with about 20 seconds left. That was the most dramatic national championship game I've ever seen, because at the time USC was up by the score of 38-24 with about 8 minutes to play. And that's a game that really put Vince Young in the annals of one of the best performances in the history of bowl games. It's amazing that he's out of work, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it's interesting, to be successful in college, to be successful in the pro ranks with a 68% winning percentage, Charlton, and can't get a job. But you also missed another one. You had Cam Newton, beating Oregon. When he was at the University of Auburn, when they beat Oregon for the national championship.
Yeah.
That down in Arizona. But, you also had Florida, win a couple national championships down there with Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
They went on to dominate. We've seen great teams. And when you look at the national championship game, Charlton, over the last decade and a half, it's really been dominated from teams from the South.
Yeah.
You go back to the 70s and 80s where you had more of a balance in the country, Charlton, where you had teams from the West Coast competing. I remember Washington winning it, I believe, around 1990.
Yeah.
SC won a couple national championships in the 70s and 80s, Charlton.
Yeah.
But, it has gravitated more to the southern states in the last decade and a half, as far as just the dominance of college football year in, year out, winning a national championship. I know Ohio State snuck in a couple times, but you go back to the University of Miami, the Jimmy Johnson winning national championships, Larry Coker. They won national championships down in Miami. So these universities, when you look at the southern region of the United States, have had a dominance, a wealth of athletes that have been able to go out and compete on that national stage consistently, Jonathan.
Yeah.
You look at even Georgia Tech, who won a national championship, under Paul Johnson, and they're out of the ACC. So, the conference balance in the South has been marvelous. When you look at the schools and you go and you count up the national championships, all the states have participated basically in that national championship run. And even under Vince Dooley down in Georgia, they won the national championship with Herschel Walker. So, you've had these schools. Tennessee has won under Philip Fulmer.
Yeah.
So these schools have gone back and forth, especially the SEC, in winning these national championships. Miami was an independent. They're now in the ACC. And we've seen Clemson out of the ACC in back-to-back years in the national championship. But they won before with Homer Jordan as a quarterback.
Yeah.
30 years ago, they won the national championship. So the talent in the South right now has had a tendency to outweigh the talent in the rest of the country. And that's what has allowed so many players from other regions to come here.
Yeah.
The SEC has a dedicated network, Charles.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to see an SEC game on every weekend. They're going to be dominated mainly by Alabama. They're going to get 4 or 5 a year on. So these players understand they have an opportunity to be seen nationally.
Yeah.
To be recognized by the nation as well as scouts and pro teams from their performances on the field. They don't have to come see them. They can sit at home and watch them on the television. So it gives a great advantage to a university that can stay in the top 5, top 10 year in and year out as far as recruiting.
Yeah, and when you think about the last championship that came to the West Coast, it was USC 55-19 over Oklahoma. But Big C, that was back in 2004 under the great Pete Carroll, and that's when they had Reggie Bush and Lindell White, all those great guys back in the day, Big C, and Matt Leinart was actually the quarterback of that team. But you're right, a lot of talent goes south now. I guess they just want to go to smaller areas and don't want to be crowded down with some of the city influences that people deal with. Another one of the best national championships games that I recall was Nebraska and Miami, and that's, I believe, Turner Gill was the quarterback in Nebraska under the great Tom Osborne. They actually went for 2, and then Miami stopped it, and that kind of propelled Miami to be on the scene for a dominant national championship program. Big C, your thoughts about that game?
Well, it was an excellent game, Jonathan, and it did give the rise to Miami football. They had been a program that, really hadn't got a lot of, interest from the national media. But, when Johnson went in there and turned that program around, Johnson, they had Johnson, had Erickson, they had Coker, this run of coaches and talent. And, basically college football was unregulated at that time. But Miami had so much talent that people felt that they were doing everything illegally. If you look at the talent on Alabama, Charlton, it's very similar to the talent that Miami had under Jimmy Johnson and Dennis Erickson.
Yeah, you're right.
Same type of talent. When you look across the table, there's not much difference other than the color of uniform, Charlton, as far as having all the dominant athletes out there offensively and defensively. But when you look at these kids and what the fanfare is, there's a reason why the SEC has such enormous stadiums, Charlton. When you look across the landscape, stadiums 90 to 110,000, fans every week.
And sold out too, yeah.
Sold out. You don't have to look up in the stands and see that up the deck empty. Like you see in so many universities. This is also a draw appeal for players. When you look at that across the country, you say, okay, this is where it is. And you go back and you look at the 70s and see what the dominant college football was being played in. That was in Oklahoma and the Texas,
yeah.
And in the USCs, it was really from the middle of the country to the West Coast. People didn't give a lot of thought to the Southern Conference at that time, Charlton. They really didn't. But that landscape changed, Charlton, in the 80s. And it started gravitating, migrating towards the South. And it's just become dominant ever since. College football goes in waves.
Yeah.
There was a point when the Big Ten was, the dominant conference. When you look at that region of the country, the Northeast, it ran college football a long time. Syracuse, back in the 50s and 60s, was a dominant program.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what thinks about that program in Syracuse. You look at the players that they turned out, Jim Brown, former Heisman Trophy winner, the late Ernie Davis. The players that came out of it. You look at Notre Dame with the Heisman Trophy winners that they had at that university, Charles.
Yeah.
And they were always looked at one of the elitist programs, and yet they just came off a 4-win season.
Yeah.
And, people are questioning what's wrong with Notre Dame football. You think about Michigan State and Notre Dame. They played for a national championship back in '66.
Yeah.
When they tied 10-10, and everybody said, one of the greatest football games of all time. I question that they only scored 20 points.
Yeah.
Vegas wouldn't look like that game off the board. But, the wave has changed. Archie Griffin, 2-time Heisman Trophy winner at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Back when Woody Hayes had a dominant program, he and Bo Schembechler fought back and forth year after year, Charles.
Yeah.
When you think about what he did, you know, he had 5 undefeated seasons, but only got 1 national championship out of each other.
Yeah.
You know, he was shunned because of where they played. You know, people didn't give him that much media coverage. You look at Bob Bowden, another one of the winningest coaches all the time. Had 5 opportunities to play for national championship, only got 1. So there was some great talent that these people went up against, Charles. So these players now want to be in the limelight.
Yeah.
They see the pro players on television. They're in the limelight. So the college players are emulating what the pro players are doing.
Well, Big C, that makes a lot of sense, too. This segment sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense. Also looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers because we simply want to put people back to work. Also, we're offering athletic insurance from pro all the way down to college, even your mom and pop soccer leagues. Tweet up to Charlton and Big C Sports for that. Big C, I want to take one more step and just talk about the national championship game tonight. I know we're not into predictions because we're not in Las Vegas. I'm sure Charles Barkley, fell asleep down there in one of the hotels. And today I was up at Uriah Favor's gym at Team Alpha Male here in Sacramento, California, and talking to Uriah Favor and also Cody Garbrandt, who won the UFC championship down in Las Vegas. So congratulations to him. I was able to hold that belt, Big C. That belt's about 14 pounds. It's actually, you got to hold it tight because it's heavier than what it looks like. So I congratulate those guys for the UFC. And thinking about the belt tonight, Big C, irrespective of who might win this game, just give me your thoughts on what you do so well. If Alabama wins, what has to happen? And if Clemson wins, what has to happen, Big C, and your thoughts?
Well, I look at what Clemson can do, Jonathan. When you think about the game last year, Clemson's top 2 wide receivers were not in the game last year. And that's going to put a lot of pressure on the Alabama secondary. Mike Williams is as good as any wide receiver in the country, standing about 6'3", 6'4", 220 pounds. He's a beast. And Alabama has been known over the season to play a lot of press coverage. And with these 2 elite receivers that Clemson has, Jonathan, they will create a lot of problems for the secondary. But you can't take your eyes off the tight end. With tight ends, these are probably the best 2 tight ends in college playing tonight in this game. So, each one of those guys can make a difference. But Dolman, the running back for Alabama, now you think about Alabama, and we talked about the receivers. People thought 2 years ago when Mississippi beat Alabama that couldn't be done again.
Yeah.
And Mississippi hung up over 400 yards in total offense and over 40 points. In back-to-back years against Alabama, if not for 2 great defensive plays where they had pick 6, Alabama would have lost the game this year to Mississippi. Brad Kelly went out there and put up a lot of yards against Alabama. Now, Deshaun Watson is a better quarterback and a similar type of quarterback with a lot of mobility and a great arm and great receiver. So, Alabama tonight is going to face their best receiving corps of the year.
Yeah.
So that's going to present a lot of challenges for their defense. On the flip side, Charlton, Alabama's offense. That's the big question mark going into this game. How will Steve Sarkisian handle the pressures of coaching in a national championship game? Everybody says he's been around for the year.
Yeah.
He understands the verbiage of the offense. He knows the players. Charlton, the last time we saw Steve Sarkisian coaching, he wasn't that successful at the University of Southern California.
Yeah, he ran out of town. Yeah.
He also never really won at the University of Washington as a head coach, prior to being replaced by Peterson up there. So he moved to SC because of an opening, not because he earned the position, Charlton, because of an opening, and he had, a relationship with the officers down there with the athletic director.
Yeah.
It wasn't that he was the right choice for the job. They looked for an easy choice for the job.
Pat Hayden gave him a chance, yeah.
They had a guy in place in Orgeron that should have got the job, Charlton, but they didn't give it to him. So now you're looking at this scenario all over again. Steve Sarkisian went to Washington, lost his first game. Went to SC, lost his first game. Now, this is his first game at Alabama. Does he have a track record?
Yeah.
That's going to be the big question mark tonight.
Well, Big C, that's so incredible. Both teams average 39 points a game. When it comes to running the football, Alabama averages 246. Clemson 175. Passing is Alabama 214 a game. Clemson 327. Total offense, you just hit a home run. Alabama 460. Clemson 500 yards offense per game. Okay, and their schedule's been pretty strong this year. So when you look at it, the sacks per game, Clemson gets about 3.5, Alabama 3.5. Their defense side of the ball, Alabama is so dominant defensively that if they had just counted their defensive points, they would have been, I believe, 6-8 on the season, Big C. That's how dominant Alabama's defense is. And when it comes to their rushing defense, they only give up 62 yards per game against the rush. Clemson 123. Passing, they only give up 182 passing, and Clemson gives up 183. Total defense, Alabama only gives up 244 yards a game. Total defense. And passing, I mean, when you look at the Clemson side of the ball, they give up 306. So I think you're right. Clemson's going to have to pass the ball to beat this Alabama Crimson Tide team. But if Alabama, all they have to do is keep being themselves and keep pounding the football, there's something about them being physically tough. You know, watching these MMA fighters fight, Big C, sometimes when you get into a ring, some guys are just physically tougher. They're just naturally stronger, they're tougher. Just like when you go out and hunt those Cape Buffaloes, they're a lot tougher than deer, Big C. So, you know, sometimes you got to shoot them 5 or 6 times. But if it comes down to the mentality, Alabama has it. If it comes to the passing game, Clemson has it. I don't care who wins. I just hope we see a great national championship game, Big C. And as we get into that, I just want to touch a little bit on the NFL. It will cut out before we get to the national championship game. I know you want to get going down there watching the game, Big C. But I want to say this final section is sponsored by Beneath His Wings Foundation.org and CYNN Entertainment. When it comes to promotion, Cynthia Evans, she's the best in Northern California. Everybody's in love with the great Aaron Rodgers and how great he played in the second half versus the Giants. Just want to get your thoughts. The Packers 38, the Giants 13. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, what Charlton, the Packers right now seem to be a team of destiny. There's no one hotter in the NFL. Once Dallas lost last week to Philadelphia, I think the steam was let out of their balloon.
Yeah.
The New York Giants, when it came to coming up to Lambeau playing, Charlton, I think too many people put too much emphasis on those players being down in Miami, and they even talked about it during the game, which had nothing to do with the game.
Oh, no, Troy Aikman partied all the time, too. Come on, be serious.
Charlton, everybody wants to blame the receivers. Who in the hell was throwing the ball to him? No one wants to blame the guy that was throwing the ball.
Yeah.
And he even ended the game with a pick. He's always going to throw something here and there. But, there was many opportunities that he left receivers hanging out, throwing the ball behind receivers. They were making miraculous catches. If you really sit down and look at the logistics of the game, you will see how many times these receivers bail out their quarterback.
Yeah.
But these receivers never get the credit for what a great play is made. It's always the quarterback and the throw he made. No, it's the catch they make. And when they don't come up with these catches because they're trying to contort their bodies to get to that point, it seemed like he just wasn't into the play or he didn't work hard enough. They work hard every play, Charlton. But, the game with the Packers, here's a team when you look at what the Packers are doing wrong. It's hard to find, Charlton. They have a pass rush. It's relentless. Julius Peppers played a tremendous game. He may not have had the sacks, but you look at the continuous pressure that he put on Eli Manning, forcing him to move off his spot. And when a quarterback has to move off his spot and throw the ball while he's moving, Charlton, he's not always going to be that accurate. The Giants defense just could not put the rush on Aaron Rodgers. I remember one pass, Charlton, he had 8-9 seconds to throw the ball.
Yeah.
He couldn't figure out where he wanted to throw it to. And when a quarterback does that, and not only that, but he threw it, he completed it, Charlton. Think about how demoralizing that is to a defense, especially on a cold day like this.
Yeah.
Regardless of what we do, we can't get to the guy. We can't unnerve him. And that's what Aaron Rodgers is doing right now, Charlton. He's playing at a different level of mindset than any quarterback in the NFL. He's willing his team to win. And then when you look at Cobb tying a playoff record with 3 touchdown receptions in that game. Offensively, you just can't key on one player. They lost Nelson early to a rib injury. But, other players step up. You have Adams and you have Cobb, Johnson, doing the job. But you got Aaron Rodgers, who is unflappable at quarterback right now. And you're not going to find anybody playing quarterback better than Aaron Rodgers. Just under 400 yards passing against the Giants with 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And we had talked about how well the Giants defense has been playing. But he just shredded them, Johnson.
Yeah, he made it look really easy. And then the Steelers, 30-12 over the Dolphins. Big Ben may have a little bruise on his leg, but they were a dominant performance over the Miami Dolphins. Also, Big C, your thoughts on that game?
Le'Veon Bell, Charlton, was the difference in that game. He has become uncannily wise franchise record for rushing their game. But Ben Roethlisberger, but you can't say enough about Antonio Brown.
Oh, yeah.
This wide receiver is electric in a football uniform, okay? You don't want to turn him because all this is going to shock you. And, he's blowing by defensive backs. He takes a little hitch pass, turns it into a 50-yard touchdown, Chauncey. So, when you think about the weapons that Ben has around him, Ben's going to always get the credit because he's a quarterback.
Yeah.
But Le'Veon Bell puts balance into that offense. And Antonio Brown puts nothing but excitement and explosiveness into that offense. And that offensive line, people talk about Dallas's offensive line, making it easy for the running back and the quarterback.
Yeah.
I got to kind of look at what they're doing at Pittsburgh under this coach who is not a great coach, Mike Tomlin.
Oh, yeah.
As been told by Fox Media.
Oh, yeah.
He's not a great coach.
Yeah.
But, he's doing something great about keeping his team consistent.
Oh, yeah.
You may not win 15 games during the regular season, but when you make it into the playoffs time and time again, that has something to do with greatness versus these coaches that are continuously getting fired and moving on.
I understand, Big C. And I also want to thank Tom Brady. I got a thank from a like from Tom Brady. We're actually friends on Facebook. And if you need another running back down there, Tom, I haven't scored a touchdown in about 30 years, but you can always hand the ball off to me. I like to help you guys win a game or two. Big C, two more games real quick. Seattle Seahawks 26 to Lions 6. Your thoughts on Seattle going into the Dirty South playing against Atlanta, Big C?
We talked about Seattle prior to that game that they needed to run the ball. They needed to establish that. We know that Wilson hasn't had the mobility and the running backs had to step up. But they got a 161-yard game out of the running back in the game. So that was the difference. They were able to keep Detroit off balance. They were so worried about the run, it just left the receivers wide open. And Russell Wilson had a field day, Joe, picking apart the secondary in Detroit.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think it will be as easy going down to Atlanta. Now, the last time that these teams played, Johnson, in a playoff game was Russell Wilson's rookie year. And if you recall, Atlanta had that miraculous reception by Roddy White from Matt Ryan to get him in field goal range to allow them to win that game, Johnson, because it was a hard-fought game all the way through up to that last 30 seconds.
Yeah.
When they had that great catch by Roddy White. But these are two different teams now. Matt Ryan is very explosive, leads the NFL, in touchdown passes and yards, as far as anybody in the playoffs. This guy has just lit the house on fire. His receivers are a little more healthy. But this is a game, Charles, that will shed light on a defensive back from Seattle, Richard Sherman.
Yeah.
Is Richard Sherman the defensive back that he says that he is? Can he handle the great Julio Jones, who nobody's been able to cover all year long? This is the matchup that I want to see, Richard Sherman versus Julio Jones. Let me know who's the king of kings.
Last thing, Big C, when you think about the king of kings, your favorite quarterback, Brock Osweiler, he lit it up for the Houston Texans against the Raiders, who were just kind of putting quarterbacks together with duct tape, 14 to 25, 168 yards. And I just don't understand. I mean, that's all they have, but it still kind of pains you when you realize that's $73 million out there in the football field. He can only throw for 168 yards against an overwhelmed Cook for the Oakland Raiders, Big C. Your thoughts on them going in to Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, Big C?
Well, this was all about Houston's offense. Brock Osweiler was just out there, Charlton. And when you have an NFL quarterback that cannot get you over 200 yards passing consistently, and that's Brock Osweiler, averaging less than 200 yards a game passing.
Yeah.
What do you have? You have to have players who can score points. You got to have a tremendous running game. You got to have a tremendous defense. But when we talked about, going into this game, that Cook did not have the ability to beat an NFL defense. Even though John Gruden said, he should have been a number one draft pick, he proved that he shouldn't be in that game, Jonathan. That he was drafted too high as it was by the Raiders because he was less than pedestrian out there throwing the ball. And people say, well, he was just a rookie. Dak Prescott's been a rookie all year. Carson Wentz started out as a rookie when he won his first 3 games. Okay, Jeff Goff, we know what his lack of productivity is. But, here he is. He's been sitting around. And have you been paying attention all year long, Jonathan, to Derek Carr?
Yeah.
Have you been watching what he's been doing? You've been sitting there and not paying attention. People say, Michael Vick was up there a couple years ago when he was a backup with the Jets when Geno Smith, I believe it was, got hurt. And Mike had to go in at quarterback. And he said, He
Yeah.
always had a week prepared. Looked like he didn't prepare to play.
No, he wasn't.
Got on the field, and he was overwhelmed by being there in the game.
I think you're right, Big C. And it shows you from first team to third team sometimes the drop off. But I want to thank everybody for following Big C Sports. And I love what's happening tonight with the national championship game. Big C, I wish you success down there in Florida. And you good old boys, don't drink and drive, but have a lot of fun at the game tonight, no matter who wins. And we always want to tell you every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide, follow Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 network in the United States of America, and Big C Sports voted the #1 sports show in the universe. We also want to say there's never any room for domestic violence. If you know any woman going through that garbage, just call 911. Don't make her go through that garbage on her own. And as we tell you every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide, follow Charlton and Big C Sports. And as we always tell you, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.